Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. It's July 18th, and welcome to another edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we missed Rhonda last week. She was working.
I missed y'all too.
But she's back with her bubbly personality tonight, and she's going to be doing all the back end stuff that I missed out doing when she wasn't here. Because I can't juggle all those balls. I focus on what's, the guests and all of that. So anyway, we have a great lineup tonight, and we have 2 books to give away. The 2 announcements I want to provide for you tonight are the National Black Book Festival registration for any vendor space, authors or publishers or whomever. We're 90%. So we don't have much left, and we expect to sell out by the end of this month or the beginning of August. So if you do plan to attend, it's going to be great, and we would love to see you there. So sign up. And for the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, the finalists will be announced on this show, on our August 15th show, on the second half of the show from 8 Central, but 9 during that time slot. We'll be announcing all the finalists. We had some amazing books that were submitted, and the judges worked very hard to score them, and also to, have some discussions and back and forth, because not everybody agreed universally on every book. You have different, that's why you have different people. We have 6 people on the panel, but the ones that rose to the top, everybody agreed. So that was good. So anyway, we are going to bringing on our first guest, and our first guest is Vanessa Riley. She does historical fiction books, and she is no stranger to the show. She's been on the show talking about her last 3 books, including the new one that she has pictured there, and that we have a copy of also. We're going to be giving it away tonight, Queen of Exiles. So, Vanessa, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Before we get started, can we just have a conversation about this bookshelf behind you? I mean, the lights. You just made my bookshelf look like trash. I'm going to have to start again.
Don't feel bad. It took several tries to get this. So
I love it. I love the lights behind it. You need to put that on YouTube.
Or TikTok, whichever one.
Yeah.
What is that exactly? It's a book
it's the lights. It's a light strip, but these plug into the into actual power, and then I have a Wi-Fi on and off.
Yes.
So I use my phone and turn it on and off.
Okay, so it's not always on.
No.
Well, you turn it on when needed.
She turned it on so she can flex in front of us. That's what it was.
Okay.
Look at her flexing now.
That is really awesome.
Yes.
I like it.
I like innovation.
I used to have the ones with the batteries, and it's like every time I want to turn them on, them things
batteries were dead.
That's funny.
I know that feeling.
Okay. Vanessa, you are an amazing writer and researcher.
Yes, absolutely.
You've done 3 books back to back on women that basically nobody knows about, and you find so much material to write a huge book. This book has, let me see, I think this one is less pages than the previous.
Yes, I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to get the stories.
Okay. So this one is like 400 and something, 417, 418. And then you have the footnotes in the back. So Queen of, and all three of your books were about women who ruled in places where they were.
Yeah, it's about power women. So
Right.
Dorothy Kerwin Thomas is an entrepreneur, but she lived in a time where Black women were not treated well, had little agency, and she took command. She freed herself, she freed her family, and she, became a powerhouse. She changed the economic fortunes for Black women and women of color in the colony of Demerara. So she's a powerhouse.
Yes.
Sister Mother Warrior, which just won Georgia's Literary Book of the Year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. So
That is amazing.
I'm always excited about little sister. Oh, look, they fell over. Anyway,
That is amazing. But your work speaks for itself, and it rises above just ordinary books. So I'm not surprised at whatever awards it wins. Any other one?
Well, and I guess that kind of leads to the question I wanted to ask, because as a book editor, I often get a lot of books that come to me. And I remember reading one young lady's book, and I asked her, why did she have so much of this certain subject in her book? I'm like, this is too much. And she said, well, this is the way I've seen other books written. And so, so she thought that was the way to do it. And so my question is, what made you decide to, I don't want to say go against the grain, but, to go with this specific genre instead of doing what seemed to be out there or seemed to be popular? Like, this young lady was doing what she thought was popular, what she thought people were reading, but you decided to take a different route and go with historical fiction, and not just do historical fiction, but do historical fiction well. You put all of the research into it. You made these characters come alive. You made us care about the characters.
Oh, you guys, I love you. I need to take you on the road with me. Absolutely. And it's good that you notice the work that I put into it. This is not for the faint of heart. So, and I don't think that other authors should subscribe to what I do. These are just I tell the stories that are called to me. And I tell the stories because I need to do honor to their lives. I would do a disjustice if I haven't turned over every rock and found everything that I possibly could about these women.
Yes.
I write it in first person so that you are her, you're Queen Elise. So you've got to know what's going on. You got to know about the politics. You got to know who's after your husband. You've got to know the countries that you're coming up against, the people who are sending spies into your nation. And then you've got daughters you've got to protect, because raising daughters, woo, y'all know, right? You got to protect them, and and then when they go into exile and they're still on the world stage, literally these three women are the first royal stalked by the media. So we think about what's happening with the Princess of Wales and Meghan Markle and all this sort of stuff. These women literally, because I found news clipping after news clipping of saying what country they were in, who they were visiting, what hotel they were staying in, how many servants were with them. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. But, I was going to ask about that too. Just how the material, now researching is easier because we have the internet, which didn't exist.
You have to be careful what you're drawing from.
So on the internet, Google can be your friend, but Google can also be a pit of hell. So always do get multiple resources, because particularly for our history, they'll get dates wrong. They'll get the daddies wrong. They'll get the where these people were born wrong. You will find references that look legitimate, and they will be 10 to 20 years off. And so you've got to also think about the world that they're inhabiting. Does this make sense in the timeline that they were here? Could they be at that age and have done these certain things? So you have to, I was going to say trust but verify, but before you even trust, you find 2 or 3 sources that say the same thing, and then from there move forward, because
Okay, so in other words, don't use Wikipedia.
use Wikipedia for the so if you go to the bottom of Wikipedia, it says where they got their resources. So it's their bibliography. Use that. Then find what the book actually said and see if it matches.
Now, I will admit that there have been times where I've used Wikipedia for only when I'm writing fiction. Not that I think that Wikipedia is full of fiction, because they do have a lot of great facts in it, but sometimes I want to see what the popular opinion is. And often Wikipedia has the popular opinion. It may not always be the factual, but sometimes it's the popular opinion. And if I'm trying to base what people believed, like for instance, with one of the books I was writing, I really wanted to delve into how people felt about Hurricane Katrina and a lot of the beliefs that came behind why certain things happened the way they happened, the conspiracy theories. And so I went to Wikipedia because I wanted to see what people thought. So I think that's a way that you can use Wikipedia. But when you actually need the factual, you have to be careful. Usually on that last little tag, whether it's a .com, a .org, a .edu. Usually if it's a .com, you might want to be a little careful. But a .org or a .edu usually has more factual information.
Google Books is another one, because they'll get you the 200 to 300-year-old books, and you can search those specifically, so you can see what the writers are saying during that time frame. So that's always good research.
And they
That's
also have because I was researching for a children's book that I'm doing in the future, because I have to go to the place. But they have you can find, I think it was through Google Books, or I found it Googling. It wasn't dissertations that are
getting a
done
dissertation
about a particular topic, and they are filled with facts and resources.
Dissertations are great because because those schools do not let you use just any source. They won't even let you use a .com for your research. You have to use something that came from a peer-reviewed source. So information you find in a dissertation is usually going to be pretty good.
Beautiful stuff. When I discovered that opera was at the early beginnings, when Haiti was still the colony of Saint Domingue, it was a grad student who'd done the research, who had researched the theater in Port-au-Prince and Le Cap, and had just done beautiful research. And I was able to weave that into the narrative, because our history, we need to know it, and to know the culture and the heights that these civilizations attained that you won't get in your regular school book. I know I didn't get it in my school.
Now, did you travel to Haiti? Have you traveled to Haiti?
Every time I have it on the books to go, something happens. Like last time it was a coup, really. And I was like,
yeah, you might not want to go during a coup.
That realism. I don't
think you want to go during a coup.
No. The closest I actually was in Haiti, but it wasn't really the real Haiti, but
Lebanese or something. Labadee.
Labadee. It was the first cruise we went on. We were supposed to go somewhere else, and there was weather. There was a hurricane. I forgot where we were supposed to go, and there was a hurricane. So Royal Caribbean owns this private island called Labadee. And
Think about that.
Yeah, the cruise line.
A private piece of Haiti is owned by a cruise ship.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
They actually had like a marketplace, a Haitian marketplace, where people were selling their wares. So we went to that while we were there. But that's the only time I've been to Haiti, and that wasn't really the real Haiti. But
it's an island that has so many different parts of beauty, of history. But right now they're they're in turmoil,
Yeah, they have
and
political
they need
challenges.
to
It
get
seems like there's always it'll settle down for a while and then there'll be upheaval again.
yeah.
So tell us about the Queen of Exiles, this
Okay.
who
So
is she? Who is this queen?
this
And
is a
why
woman,
should we want to know about her?
because I think all of us want to be a queen. We are
Yes.
queens, but I mean, we really want to be a queen. We want the jewels and the crowns and the walk in the pretty gowns. And it's one of the reasons the Queen Charlotte Bridgerton is so popular, because of that possibility of being royal. And what's that like? And then we have an actual Black queen who was royal, who had the jewels, who had the gowns, who had the loving husband, who had the kids and the prince and the princesses. Unfortunately, the kingdom fell. But in the same time frame, from 1811 to 1820, the same Regency time frame that we all know and love from Bridgerton or from just Jane Austen, etc., it's when the matchup of this, when this kingdom existed. And it went to great heights, you know, and so the political intrigues that we think about, that it was happening in the Haitian court. You had Ducels, which were dukes, so you had Comtes, which are counts, and you had all of these different titled peers and peered people. And it was fabulous. The balls, like I doing the research, finding out what music they played at the balls and how sometimes they would have ballet performers come and do that. These are things, you know, harpsichord, people playing the harpsichord. One of the daughters actually was very good at the harpsichord, at the harp. These are things that we ought to know about. And I sometimes wonder if there's an agenda to take away and hide all of this so that we are only left with the picture of enslavement and that we're always in need of someone to save us. This is a woman, she didn't have an easy life. She rose up from being just an innkeeper's daughter to a soldier's wife, to a general's wife, to president's wife, to the queen of a new nation. And she and her husband tried to do things to make sure that the country grew, it was prosperous, and that France would not come back. But the kingdom fell. She was able to escape to go to London with her daughters, with her jewels. And literally the 2 days into being at the Osborne Hotel, a maid steals the jewels. So you risked your life to smuggle jewels out of Haiti, knowing this is how I'm going to pay for my daughter's food and our lodgings and all this sort of stuff. And they're stolen within 2 days of you being in London.
Wow.
So it just, put yourself in that situation. How am I going to keep going forward? And once again, the newspapers are telling you that I'm here, that I'm at the Osborne Hotel. So all the enemies of my husband and the country know where I'm at. And I'm unprotected because the monies that I thought I was going to use, what do you do? She figured it out. She rebuilds his fortune. And she is accepted in the European royal community. So everybody who thinks that this was they were isolated because they were Black, no. I have found that they were well liked, well integrated into the European society. There is, in the book, you'll get a famous opera that's opening in Florence. And they've invited all the royals, even the ex-royals, to come. And on the front row, you have the King of Westphalia, you have the King of Holland, you have Madame Christophe and her daughters, you have the Prince of Prussia.
Wow.
First row, they are seating them in order of precedence. Because if she was not accepted as a queen, she would not be on the front row with these other royals. And if she didn't have money, she would not be there.
Right.
Right. Well, in Europe, they really believe in the monarchies.
They did.
They really do strongly, especially when you think about in England, they've had the same family ruling for 1,000 years, not a metaphorical 1,000, an actual 1,000 years. That is incredible. That means you had to have developed a belief system in the people in the country to support them living well above the station of everyone else being paid for by the government, and they basically don't do anything except go to tea and
They just nowadays do some charity work.
Yeah.
See, this is why I feel like stories like this are important, because it really frustrates me when I hear our people always approaching our history or our culture from a struggle sense, or as if we've never been kings and queens. Now, I know at one time back in the 80s and 90s, we were saying my people come from kings and queens, but they didn't know, it just felt good to say. But, when we actually see the facts that we actually did have kings and queens in our lineage, that, our history did not start at slavery, that there was so much more that happened, not even just prior to them, but during that time. There was so much more to us than that. I think that changes the conversation. And, it changes the way we look at ourselves. So keep writing, girl.
And Dr. Ron, that goes back to your very first question. Why do I go that nth degree? I know no one knows this history.
Right.
And I know it's going to be challenged. One of the reasons that I put the actual newspaper clippings in the book, because I was like, y'all ain't gonna believe this. y'all, it's like I found it and I was like, I'm DMing my editor. Girl, guess what I found? So I put it in there because I wanted you guys to see what she was dealing with and the things that were happening and how they were writing her up. One of my favorite crazy headlines was Henri and Louise had just been crowned, and one of the European papers are like, so King Henri has been crowned. We wonder when he's going to get rid of his old wife and get a new duchess.
Oh,
okay. And one of the things I hope people take away is Henri loved Louise. He loved that woman. But he was also dealing with mental struggles and post-traumatic, because he fought in the American Revolution. That's how he gained his freedom. And then he comes back to Haiti and he's fighting in all the rebellions. And then he gets in the military and then he, wakes his way up. He's been fighting a long, long time. And he can't get out of his head that France is going to come back. So he over-militarizes the kingdom. That's why they build a citadel that's still there today, because that thing that looks like Noah's Ark coming out of the mountain is going to frighten France if they ever try and come back. And it's going to be full of cannons so we can blow them out of the water if they ever come back. And when the kingdom falls and he's no longer around and all the strong men are gone, 5 years later, here comes France. And because the Republic despised Henri and Louise's emissaries of negotiating with Russia and England, they decided to do none of that. So when France comes back, not a single country is stepping in the way to try and stop them. Unlike what Henri had done, because Russia and England had actually stopped France from coming back earlier.
One thing that I wanted to refer back to that you mentioned a few minutes ago was about the history not being presented to us, or I don't, this is my personal view. I don't think people are trying to block us from knowing it per se, but they're not helping us know.
Right.
So if we want to know it, we have to bring it to light, which is what many of us are now doing. Yeah. It's just so much history being written now by people from all walks of life, not all of which are not necessarily academics, not what typically think it would come from. It's coming from just good writers who are good at researching and then presenting it in a narrative form that people can appreciate.
And I would tell all of them, don't trust the prevailing narrative. I've seen many modern historians, and the first words out their mouth when they talk about Louise is sorrowful queen. sorrowful Queen, sorrowful Queen Louise, sorrowful Queen Marie Louise. And they steal her agency because they only focus on the tragedies she lived through.
Right.
And or this perception that she was poor and alone in England and not accepted as a queen. Two very bad fallacies. She was accepted and she reigned there, and the royals respected her. How she conducted herself, respected her daughters, how they conducted themselves. There were still always detractors trying to do things, trying to maneuver, trying to get part of their fortunes and whatnot. But they were of grace and elegance, and they were known for this, and they were known for their charity work. That's the legacy we should think about. I find that we need to stop looking so much at the negative.
Absolutely.
Because it takes something from us. And once
Yes.
again, so many people hate looking at history. So many young people hate history because they've been fed this negative. And it's like there's so much vibrant and beauty that we're missing when you don't know your history. And there's stories like Queen Louise.
We have to start crafting our own narratives based on the truths and facts that we find that we're looking for. In order to find a fact, generally you have to be looking for it. They don't just like jump at you. You have to be digging and researching and interviewing people. And so we have to do more of that. And we are doing it, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I think this is the importance of movies, though. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched a movie, and then when I found out it was based on a real life subject, I start digging into it. I want to read more. I remember my boyfriend and I were watching. Oh, what were we watching? Oh, we were watching the Whitney Houston movie. The one that just recently came out.
The recent one, yes.
Yes, the most recent one.
Okay.
And every time we saw something like, did that really happen? He would pick it up on his phone and say, here's the picture right here. Here's the picture of her and Clive Davis when they were sitting at the table. Here's the picture of when she did such and such. She was wearing this exact same dress. And we got excited because we got to see what the real thing was. So I say that to say that this is the importance of movies. Somebody is going to make your books into a movie. We're not talking about Bridgerton. We want to see the real.
Out there, girl, put it out there. I'm gonna leave it with you. I'm gonna leave it with you. Put it out there. Put it out there.
And somebody is going to say, "Wow, that's real. I want to see that. I want to learn more about that." And this is why we've got to bring more of these stories to life. We've got to put more of these stories in our young people's purview, because that's the only way that they're going to get excited about it. They may not actually read the book, but they may read the book later once they've seen the movie.
Exactly.
Now, have any of your books been optioned? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So
we almost there. We almost there.
We're almost there. But now we gotta, girl, why we get optioned and all of a sudden there's a writer strike and an actor strike?
Yeah, well, they're not going to be striking forever. And once they get off strike,
and they need a living wage, and they need, they're doing what they need to do.
Writers aren't getting paid a lot. People think when you sell one screenplay that you've made it rich.
Yeah, they should be getting royalties.
When you sell one book, right?
They should be getting royalties. I don't know if they do, but if it can't do well without the writing, and so the writer needs to be getting. I don't know how they get paid. I don't know how, if they're just paid.
They're contracted
by the job.
In the past, every time on regular TV, not the cables and the satellites and streaming, they would be paid per episode. Every time that episode went into reruns, or they would get money for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But when it goes to streaming, that doesn't apply. It's not because the way the contracts are written, it's not that type of television. So somebody could be streaming your work and streaming your work and streaming your work for the next 10 years, and you will never see a dime.
That's the way most of the stuff is seen now, streaming. So, these people who are getting these deals, they need a lawyer that's representing them that writes that in there. Otherwise, a lot of times you get excited when you get these deals and you don't really look at the fine print and the details. And that's
You're just excited that you got a deal.
Yeah. A lot of people end up missing out on millions of dollars, because they didn't have an attorney. Well, we are at the end of
I'm about to say it is 8:30. Well, 8:30 here. Well, you're on the East Coast too. So it is 8:30. We have to end this wonderful interview.
We do. And before we go, we're giving away a copy of your book to the audience, and we do it based on trivia. So the trivia question for tonight for this book is Queen of Exiles by Vanessa Riley. In what year was King Henry, the husband of Haiti's queen, overthrown by political rivals? So you have to put the year in the chat. If you get the first one to get it right, wins a copy of the book. And this is an actual book, not an art. So this is an actual hardcover book.
And isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? With the
It is
deckled
pretty.
edges and stuff like that. Show that book out, girl. Show that book.
It is. So thank you again, Vanessa, for being on the show.
No, thank you, ladies,
And
for having me.
keep on writing.
Oh, we got an answer already?
We got an answer already from who?
Lydia.
Lydia won. Okay.
Lydia said 1820. She is not here to play with y'all.
She won the book.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And again, continued success with everything.
you, ladies.
You're doing. And I hope
Thank you.
one of them gets made into a movie. At least one.
I hope all of them do.
Yeah. Well, at least one.
Absolutely.
Okay. Have a great night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Lydia won that book fast.
She sure did. I was
She's
about to
not gonna
take
let
question
Stephanie and
against it.
Mary beat her every week. She said she did okay. She's not playing. Okay. We have our next guest ready to come on screen. And this is her first time on the show.
Okay.
It's Tracy. I believe her last name is pronounced Livesay, but she'll let us know. And Tracy, is your last name pronounced Livesay?
Livesay, but that was
Livesay, you were close.
so
Livesay.
close.
I was
Okay.
gonna say Livesay, so I was totally wrong.
No, my dad.
I am so used to it. It is okay. Livesay was like almost. It was like
Okay.
99%.
Okay, so it's Livesay.
Yes.
Livesay. Okay, well,
Yeah.
what is the origin of that name?
That is my husband's name, and it's British, some British.
Oh, your husband's British?
Well, his family is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes. He is he's country. He's
Okay, well, some of the
He's that other part of the family.
there's the saying that men from the country make the best husband.
he's a very good husband. We've been
Keep
married
it in
24
mind.
years. 24
Okay,
years.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
my husband is from the country.
Okay.
They get it. They're not expecting us to do what they should be doing. That's the thing.
My goodness.
Tracy, you have a new book out. It's called The Duchess Effect, and we have the advanced reading copy of it that we're going to give away at the end of the interview. And you write interracial romance. And I don't know, Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember, have we had an author that focuses on the interracial romance genre on the show? And we've interviewed more than 500 people.
I know.
I believe we have had an author who had an interracial relationship that she wrote about, but not totally focusing on the way that's
not
what she
like
wrote about.
multi-title.
Yeah.
Because Tracy, tell us how many books you have under your belt. How many books have you have published?
I think Duchess Effect is my 9th book. And then I have been a part of 3 like anthologies. So I've written 3 novellas. But yeah, I think
Okay.
it's my 9th full-length novel.
Okay, well, congratulations on that. And I love this cover. I love the way she
Thank you.
put it on there. It's really nice. So tell us what inspired you to write in the interracial romance genre, because it is a genre.
Mhm.
There are many authors that are writing, it's Black female writers, I'll say, and they're writing about women, Black women who are in relationships with men of other cultures.
Right.
So, and it seems to be growing. The
It
genre seems
does.
to be growing
It does.
because 20 years ago, and that was when we first started in the book industry with the store and online and selling books. I don't even think it existed then, or if it did, it was just small.
It was very small, and that's actually what got me involved in writing and specializing and saying like my niche was going to be interracial romance because romance is my favorite genre. I grew up reading it. I was reading it when I was probably way too young to be reading it. But I love to read. I grew up with a father who read to me every night. So it just stoked my love of learning, of books, of stories. And when I was reading romance, I did not see myself. I mean, that's the main thing. Most of the characters that I was reading about were white women. There were not a lot of Black women in the romances that I was reading. And then that slowly changed, which was great. Um, at about the time that I started dating my husband, as I said, we've been married 24 years. We've been together almost 27. So about the time that we started dating, and he's white, I'm reading these books that I love, this genre that I love, and I can't find our story in these books. It was rare to find a Black heroine, number one. It was then like doubly rare to find an interracial relationship. And if there was an interracial relationship, then the conflict between the hero and heroine was all about race. So, in other words, it was like, we can't be together because I'm Black and you're white, and the world is against us. And them overcoming that conflict was the main story. And that was not the situation that my husband and I was in. And I just wanted to see our story reflected in this genre that I love, the same sort of tropes and storylines. One with a Black heroine, that was the most important thing to me. But then also to see, our love story, to just see the hero who looked like him and them have the same conflicts that couples who were Black or white had in romance novels. And so when I decided that I was going to try to become published in romance, I knew that that was going to be what I was going to write. I will say, my first book came out in 2014, I think it was. And so I had been trying for a couple years before that. And I got a lot of, can you just make them the same couple? I mean, same race. Like they didn't really want me to write interracial. And I know it's different now and it's growing, but starting out, that was actually a statement to actually say, no, this is the story that I want to write. These are the couples that I want to portray. But it was really important to me, not only for me and my husband, but my thought was for our children, for children who are the products of interracial relationships, to see, their parents or couples like their parents in loving relationships was really important.
So
Yeah,
your stories are really about people who are in love and they just happen to be different races, but this is a love story. So does race ever come up? Does the theme of race ever come up in any of your stories?
Oh, absolutely, because I write Black women, and it's how I see the world. It's how I view the world. And so it's very much a part of my stories. It's just that's not the conflict between the couples. So, there's a lot of readers will reach out to me because I talk about hair, I talk about skincare, I talk about, how we might be treated in the workplace, or the mindset of my characters as they're trying to, succeed professionally. And then, they happen to fall in love. But the lens that my characters view the world through is that of a Black woman. So race comes up. And, she knows she's Black. He knows he's white. She tells him he's white. Like, that's all part of it. But again, that's not going to be the thing that keeps them together or apart.
Right.
Gotcha.
So they're not like fighting the night riders or picketing, they're not participating in demonstrations all the time and fighting a race.
It's
race
not the
battle.
struggle. It's not the struggle where they're in love, but his parents don't want them to be together because she's a Black woman or something like that.
In most of the stories. Now, when you talk about the new series like American Royalty and Duchess Effect, which is, has been described as Harry and Meghan, if Meghan was Megan the Stallion, it's a lot about it's a lot about she's Black and she's a rapper, and that's not going to fit in. But again, between the two of them, that's not the issue.
Okay, that's interesting. You explained it very well.
Yes.
In terms of the motivation, and I wondered about people who write this genre. Are they writing their own experience? I always wondered that, and so I don't know if they all are, or it's just an area of interest for some of them.
Right. I can't say if that's true or not. So I'm always very clear to say that that is the way I am approaching it. And, the whole sort of goal or motivation about being a Black female romance author is that we make room for others to be able to tell the stories, their point of view, the things that interest them. So these are the stories that I write, and that's the view that I approach them with. But other people will do it other ways, and other authors will write stories where the race is the conflict and they are protesting. Like, those stories are there too. There should be enough for all of us, no matter what you're looking to read, no matter what interests you. There should be a story or an author who's writing that particular thing that you're interested in.
And that's true. I mean, people want to see themselves in the stories that they read or the movies that they watch or what have you. So, whether the majority agrees or disagrees with it should not be the reason why people can't see themselves in the stories that they read.
100%.
Or they want to fantasize, they want a fantasy. A lot of people read to escape.
This is true.
Like, see how other people are living, or just some fictional characters are living. So one thing that you mentioned to me that stuck out when you first presented your work, did you end up self-publishing that first one, or did a publishing house eventually say, okay, we get it?
I published through a traditional publisher. I haven't self-pubbed yet. I'm actually looking to do that this year with a novella, a holiday novella that I'm going to self-pub. But it was published through a small press.
Okay.
That's how I started. My first 2 books were with a small press, and then the rest I've been with Avon and HarperCollins. So I think sort of getting into the industry a little older, I think having this be my second career, I knew what I wanted to write. I am privileged and fortunate enough that we can live on my husband's income. So it's not that we were depending on me. So I didn't have to make choices that were always financially motivated. And so I was just very clear to my agent, who passed the message on, that this is what I was going to write, and I was not changing. And so we just had to wait until we found people willing to take a chance.
Right, because that does happen in the industry, They have a specific way they see us. And if you try to write something that's not in the box that they have, then they say, well, it won't work, or people won't like it. How do they know that if they try?
It's kind of like how the Cosby Show was. When the Cosby Show first came out, a lot of us loved the Cosby Show because we got to see ourselves in a different view. But there were so many people who said Black people don't really live like that. Black people don't talk like that. Black people this, Black. And one time I had a Puerto Rican guy who told me, I didn't like the Cosby Show. Black people didn't live like that. And I was like, no.
You know.
The ones he knows. That's the ones he knows. You know, and then
like you said, they try to keep us with a certain image, a certain view, right? And so there were people who would look at that and say, that's not realistic. It's realistic for actually a lot of people.
Right. And even if it's realistic for one person, it's them writing from their point of view.
They should still they should still feel like they see themselves in those stories.
Right. Or just, you know, they want to see themselves they want to create a fantasy, which is part of writing, part of movie making, part of any kind of storytelling. So, you know, we have the right to do that, just like everybody.
Absolutely. And, you know, like with the Cosby Show or with what I write, you find out that we do have a lot more in common than we have, right? So even if a whole bunch of people started out like, I don't know Black people that live that way, we still all found something that we connected to. We found something that we enjoyed. And I feel like romance is really good at that, because it's a very empathetic genre, because you're reading about two people falling in love. And we've had that experience. You know, most of us, if we're fortunate, have had that same experience. And so the trappings might look a little different. Culturally, things might be different, but we know that feeling, that, you know, your heart racing, being excited to spend time with someone, all the little sexy things that happen. We know those experiences, and hopefully the outer trappings, we can learn something new. We can, you know, be in a new culture, or, you know, in a relationship that we typically wouldn't be in. We can still learn something, even if it's not a situation that we would normally be in ourselves.
Yeah, I had a couple of authors tell me, maybe more than a couple, that, you know, when they presented their work to a publishing house, that the people doing the reading and thinking about signing would tell them, or even in the process of writing, they would tell them that and these were white people telling a Black person that the characters in the book weren't Black enough. You know, as if there's,
but I think part of that is our fault, though, because we as Black people sometimes say that certain people aren't Black enough, you know, or we go out to see, we complain about the slave movies and the street movies, but that's what we go and support. But who went and supported the movie about the Black violin player that came out a few months ago? I can't think of that.
I saw it on Chevalier. I saw it on
Chevalier.
I didn't see it at the movies. I didn't even hear about it. But then I just happened to see it scroll across, and I said, this seems interesting, and then I watched it. So, but yeah, I think we have a right to say something's not Black enough, but I don't think other people have. I
agree with you. But what I'm saying is the people who have the power to green light a movie want to know that it's going to sell. And if we are saying certain things aren't Black enough, if we are saying something like, oh, Black people don't want to see that, or Black people don't do that, and we don't go support it, then the people who green light the movie, who normally are not Black, they're not going to support it because they think that we aren't going to support it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it has to be both sides, right? We have to have people, we have to have more diverse people in the industry, so that their initial instinct isn't to say, I don't see myself. Like, it's not about white people. White people aren't centered, so I'm not interested. Or they have preconceived notions about how Black people act, how we
Right.
and so if it's not reflected on the page, they're like, no, this doesn't work. So we have to get that. But you're right. And this is part of why what you guys do is so great is we have to also be like, there is a whole spectrum of things that is the Black experience. And we
Right.
should, as Black consumers, support all of that so that we can see all of that. So that, like you said, when something comes up, people aren't thinking, oh, this doesn't look like that one genre of thing that I've seen Black people do. So now we're not going to greenlight it, or now we're not going to publish it because it doesn't look like what we're used to. So, I mean, I think you're both right. We've got to be open-minded. We've got to support, we've got to support Black creators, even if the vision that they bring forth isn't what we're used to. With the caveat, because there's some visions we don't need to see. I don't care. I don't care where they come from. But you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
I think it's on both sides. You're right.
Well, we need to talk about the book. And
talk about the book.
Yeah,
Wow.
about the book. So, don't tell the whole story, but tell us about the Duchess effect and who this character is.
I love the cover, though.
I do too.
I think that is beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I've been very lucky. So the Duchess Effect is the sequel to American Royalty. And I'm going to hold up this cover because this was the first book.
Okay.
And so it's the sequel to this book. And essentially what happens is there's a Black rapper, Danny, but her stage name is Duchess. And she think sort of Rihanna. She has her own business. She's trying to sort of make the transition from just music into being an entrepreneur. And she gets caught up in this scandal with this pop star who's trying to sort of ride her coattails, and be famous by association. And this scandal threatens Danny's business. So she needs to get some good press. On the other side, you have this British prince who has tried to stay out of the limelight.
British prince?
Yes.
Not just a British man, he was a British prince.
A prince, yes. I was like, this story can be told now. So he's a professor. He tries to stay out of the limelight, but his family has their own sort of scandals going on. And his grandmother, the Queen, wants to drum up some good press for them. So they decide to throw this tribute concert. And because he is essentially one of the only members of the family not to be involved in a scandal, she puts him in charge of the concert. And so through, some different things, which I won't give away, Duchess ends up going over to the UK to perform in this concert. She gets there a little early. She ends up having to stay at the prince's ancestral home for a few weeks. And it's during that time that they fall in love with each other. Then they have to go and be in the public, and they've both told themselves that this is just a fling, nothing's going to come of it. But, it's a romance novel. So they have fallen in love, and they try to keep their relationship a secret. But by the end of American Royalty, it's not a spoiler, the prince pretty much tells the world that they are involved in a relationship, and his grandmother, the Queen, is not happy. So starting the Duchess Effect, that takes place pretty much a month or two after that. The entire world knows they're together. They're very sort of popular, but now that everyone knows they're together, everyone is focused on them. And so the Duchess Effect is like, can their relationship survive now that the entire world is watching, now that the entire world has an opinion about whether or not they should be together? It's sort of like what happens after the happily ever after.
Well, it's certainly timely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it is.
It's been taken from the headlines. Kind of sorta. But but she looks, she doesn't look like Megan. Let me just put it like
No,
that.
no.
So,
She's not light skinned. Go ahead and say it.
well, biracial. She's not biracial.
No, not at
Black
all.
on both sides. This woman.
Yes, yes, she is. Yes, she is. And that was part of it, right? Like Megan was
Okay.
very light skinned. A lot of people didn't even know that she was Black. And
I
so
didn't until she, you know, when I found out she was Black.
When they told us.
No, when I watched Suits, because I like legal shows and I really like Suits. Well, until Wendell Pierce showed up as her dad.
Right.
That was playing her dad in, and I said, you know, they wouldn't have him be her dad if she wasn't biracial.
That was
Well, you know what was funny to me when the first time I ever saw Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I did not know the man was Black, but I just never thought about it. And then when they told me that he was Black, I looked at him again. I was like, dang, how did I not know he was Black? You know, now. Yeah, and like now when I look at Megan, I can see it. You know,
you're right. I thought she was Italian or maybe Hispanic.
I can see that.
I said there's something there. I just knew. I just know there's something in there. And then when they cast him as her father, I said the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. I said, okay, they wouldn't have done this.
I must be the only person in the world who's never even seen Suits. I probably would have known.
Good. It's really good.
I've heard it was good. I'm gonna have to watch it.
I love legal shows because it really, I learn about the law, but if it's well written, then that's one of my favorite type shows. Is a legal show or a good espionage, like a CIA type show. I love those too.
Well, Tracy, I was looking at your bio and I see you live down the street from me. I'm in the DMVs too, but I live in Maryland. You're in Stafford.
Yes.
So that's not that far.
Not at all. See, that's why we were vibing. Same area. We know this area. Yes.
So what is next for you, Tracy? Is this a 3-book series or 2?
Right now it's 2. I have the holiday novella that will be coming out at the end of the year. And then this series sort of came in the middle of a series I had been working on. The idea, as you said, sort of like ripped from the headline. So when I had the idea for the series and talked to my editor about it, I was thinking they would wait until the series I was working on was over. And they were like, no, stop. Work on this now and we'll go back to the series. So that series was my Girls Trip series. It is about 4 women who graduated from college together and then they go on vacation every year together. And it's based on my own friendship with women that I graduated from college with, and we've gone away on vacation together every year for the past 25 years. COVID was the only year we've missed going on vacation. And so I have the first 2 books of that is already out. And so I'm writing book 3 now. And then I'm hoping after that to go back to American Royalty.
Well, you're not wasting a lot of time because the Duchess Effect was just released. Not even 2 weeks ago.
Last Tuesday, wasn't it?
Yes.
Last Tuesday was the release date.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're already moving on to the next 2 or 3 books, and so it tells me that you're in this industry to stay.
Yes, that is my plan. I had really good advice in the beginning that said this is not a sprint; it's a marathon. You got to think about it that way. Not every book is going to be a home run, but when you look at your entire career, you want to keep moving and having each book do better than the last. And that's sort of what my focus on. And the only way that happens is if I keep writing. So that's my plan.
All right. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
We are planning to give away this copy of the book, and we do it based on trivia. So for those who are paying attention, this should be an easy answer. It's just a matter of who gets it first. So the trivia question for this book is, The Duchess Effect is a sequel. What's the title of the first book? So people should be able to, because we do the trivia questions in advance of the interview. So we don't know. Sometimes the answers come out during the interview, but if people are paying attention, they'll be able to get the answers for that.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. So Tracy, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And it's great meeting you finally with your book. I've seen your books around, you see people's work, but I
we got the answer already.
Who did it? Who did it? Stephanie. Oh, Stephanie and Mary, but I think Stephanie was first.
Stephanie was first.
Okay.
Right.
Stephanie, she wins almost every week. her and Mary go back and forth.
And look, Tony Bonita said, "You go for it, Mary. I already have both."
Hey, Miss Tony, Miss Tony watching. Hey, Miss Tony.
Okay, thanks again, Tracy, and
thank you, Gwen and
thank
Rhonda.
you
so
for
much.
explaining and just describing your personal experience and how it relates to your writing.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was so lovely talking to both of you, and to know that you're in the DMV. I hope that
let's stay in touch.
Yes, please, absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Good night, ladies.
Bye.
A lot of the authors that come on are in the DMV.
I noticed
This is
that there are a
common.
lot of DMV authors on the show.
A lot. Seems like almost every week.
Mhm.
So, next we have our guest that will be coming on to talk about a project he has. And it's called Barbershop Books. Some of you may have read about it because it has been in the news for the last few years. And Alvin Irby is the founder and executive director of Barbershop Books. And he had a passion that he's going to share with us tonight on the show and tell us how he got Barbershop Books off the ground. So, Alvin, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you
You're
for being
welcome.
here.
You're welcome. And I do want to give a shout out to my good friend Taris Allen, because that's the reason why we were able to connect. We had tried to get you on the show before, but we just kept, missing each other, but Doris can make things happen. So, and she's working with you now, and I'm so happy about that. So,
As am I.
and she has great energy and commitment, and she knows the industry, and has passion. She's so passionate.
Well, I'm always just thankful when I have an opportunity to collaborate and work with people who are passionate about helping the babies read. So, yeah, which is one of the reasons why I'm happy to be here today. I know that, your platform gives voice to so many people who are, on a daily basis working to expand reading opportunities and to, shed some light on the perspectives and the voices of Black people. So that's great.
Well, it's a labor of love. So thank you though for that feedback. And tell us, what is Barbershop Books and why did you create it? Why did you say this is a void, I need to fill it?
Well, I wish that, I just was sitting somewhere and then it just came to me, but it really was inspired by a moment that I had with one of my students. So I was teaching first grade in the Bronx in New York City, and there was a barbershop across the street from my school, the school where I taught first grade. And so one day after school, I was getting a haircut, and one of my first grade students came into the barbershop, plopped down on the sofa, was kind of looking out the window bored. He started getting antsy. his mom was like, sit down, you know, and the whole time I observed this happening, he was my student, you know, and so the whole time, all I kept thinking was, he needs to be practicing his reading right now. And I wished I had a children's book to give him, but I didn't. And so it was really just that chance encounter with one of my students that sparked the idea that, you know, ultimately became Barbershop Books.
Wow. Well, you know, a lot of times personal experiences do spark action and creative ideas.
Yeah.
So, and you took it to the next step of executing it.
Yeah.
So you
I
didn't
love the
actually
idea.
have a barbershop yourself. You were
No,
at the barbershop when you
If
got
you
there.
see me cutting hair, it is definitely the apocalypse. The zombie or the virus or whoever that took over, and there are no longer any options. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I taught
Okay.
kindergarten, I taught first grade. So, you know, that was my entry point. You know, but as a Black man, I mean, I've spent a significant amount of time, you know, in barbershop. So I understand the cultural significance of that space.
So what does Barbershop Books do?
We are focused on inspiring Black boys to identify as readers and to read for fun. And we do that, you know, through child-centered, culturally responsive, and community-based programming and content. Most people know us for our flagship program, Barbershop Books, which creates child-friendly reading spaces in Black barbershops across the United States. And it also provides early literacy training to barbers. You know, a lot of times when people hear about Barbershop Books, they kind of think, oh yeah, boys, yeah, they should be reading while they wait to get a haircut. But, you know, for us, it's really kind of a lot more than that. You know, we actually ask Black boys what children's books they like to read. Then we curate a book list based on their recommendations, and we distribute those books to barbershops across the country. And then we, you know, provide training to the barbers so that they can create, you know, positive reading experiences in the barbershop. I think that, you know, sometimes people can think that, you know, simply because they're well-meaning or their intentions are good, that means that the outcome will be good. But, you know, a lot of kids have had well-meaning but traumatic reading experiences. And so for us, you know, we provide training to barbers to try and help ensure that they really have just some practical tips and strategies that they can use to kind of engage with parents and engage with children about reading.
When you say they had traumatic reading experiences, can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I mean,
exactly by that?
Kids being asked to read aloud in front of other people. You know,
okay.
I mean, it's so interesting because, you know, one of the biggest or most common fears is public speaking, right? And even though someone might be able to read perfectly fine in their head or alone, when you ask, you know, sometimes a child or even an adult to read in front of other people, it can create anxieties that impair or impact, you know, their ability to read fluently. And unfortunately, those types of experiences, you know, can be traumatic and really lead to kids having negative reading attitudes or not feeling like a confident reader, even though they have the ability. And there are also other experiences like, you know, adults or parents punishing children with reading, right? Oh, you want to act up? Well, go to your room and read. As if reading is like, you know, it's
right.
meant to be this.
We make reading feel like a punishment instead
Not
of
to
an
make it
activity.
feel it is a punishment, you know, in some of these cases. You know, also there are other situations where, like, you know, I know for me, you know, my mom was an elementary school teacher, but she never really curled up with us and read a book. You know, it was more like, come in from playing and let's do this reading lesson, you know. And so, you know, I think there are a lot of ways in which, or, you know, other forms of reading trauma, a kid just wants to read a funny or silly book, but every book that's given to them is not a book that's aligned with their reading preferences or their interests. And that can create a sense of, well, I'm not a reader because the things that I like to read about aren't valued in the classroom or aren't valued. Adults, ask me all the time, all my son wants to do is read comic books. And I just stop parents and I say, let me just stop you right there, because you just said all my son wants to read. There are so many parents who wish they could say just those words.
Right.
And so those are just some examples of, some of the ways, in which, reading trauma can kind of be created.
Right.
It happens.
So you're saying that some people put their kids like in isolation, like when they in prison, when they go and they have to be on the lockdown by themselves. That's how they read.
I remember being imprisoned in the beauty shop for hours at a time as a child with my mom. But fortunately, they had the Jet magazine, so that made it all better.
So as long as it was Jet magazine. Page 42 or something like that, right?
Listen, I didn't say none of that. I didn't say nothing else about Jet. I just said that there was Jets available, and I was a voracious reader of page 42. As a kid,
or the top songs, the top music, top hits. That was a place that I used to go. In there, that was always in the back of Jet. I think the last paper. That was.
I do hear what you're saying, though. That sometimes we have to meet our kids where they are, and if they want to read comic books, then there's nothing wrong with them starting off with comic books. At least it starts them with something. Now, my worry is that they never progress further than just reading comic books. But I am glad that they're reading. I used to read Archie when I was a kid, but I also read other books as well. So, maybe slowly introducing other books can sometimes help the kid.
Read is comic books for pleasure, and they don't read anything else for pleasure. They have to read stuff for school. But if all they read is comics books, and they're curious and they look up the words and they get involved in those stories, guess what? We need people to write and make comic books for the next generation. I think that, children's reading preferences as they get older, likely are very likely to change. And, as they learn more about the world, learn more about themselves. But one of the things that's a lot more difficult to change is their identity. So if children don't identify as readers at a young age, it's going to be much more difficult as they get older for them to develop a reading identity and for them to develop habits of reading. And so for that reason, I just encourage parents, expose children to new and different things,
I'm with you on that. And when I say slowly introducing them to other things, I don't mean a strictly educational book. I'm saying that there are great fiction books out there that are geared toward young adults. Maybe say, oh, you like reading about dinosaurs? Well, here's a book about dinosaurs. That's what I'm saying. Just slowly introducing things to them. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. I agree with that. I mean, I think that, paying attention to children's reading preferences, where they like to read, how they like to read, what they like to read. For some kids, it's not even the content. It's just the conditions under which they're being asked to read that may not necessarily jive with kind of what makes reading personally meaningful, relevant, or engaging for them. And so I think, anytime parents are just in tune to their child and what kind of engages them, I think that's always a plus. But no, I'm in agreement with you that, we want to expand kids' realm of possibility. We want to expand their world,
Right.
And that's one of the great things that reading does,
Right. Another thing is, what I had to learn was when I was introducing my daughter to reading, I wanted her to read certain books. Oh, first of all, she hated Their Eyes Were Watching God. She couldn't wrap her mind up around the dialectic writing. Fine. But what I did find out was that she was enjoying, and I cannot think of what it's called, but there were these stories, kind of like episodic stories on the internet. And I found out that a lot of kids were enjoying those instead of reading full books. They were still reading, and they were still reading stories, but
They were
they
just
weren't
in small format or
right. They
short
were,
format.
yeah, they were in shorter formats on the internet. And it was something that I remember talking with a teacher about it, because she was surprised about it as well. Like, this is what the kids like to read now. I mean, at least they're reading, and they're reading stories. It's just different. So sometimes I think we as adults sometimes have to expand our way of thinking, because books have progressed. They're not the same as what they were when we were kids.
And I think, especially as we think about the reality of just surviving and I mean, if you work in 2 or 3 jobs, or you just, bone tired when you get home, I think that, there are ways to use everyday moments, everyday experiences, trips to the grocery store, right? You can read the labels, you can read the aisle signs,
Mhm.
you can read all kinds of stuff. You're at the bus stop, you can read the signs around you. You are on public transportation, you can read the signage in the bus, you can read the signage on the train. I think that sometimes, to your point, people can think that reading is only when you sit down and have a kid with you and you have a book. But I think that, like, if we can turn, like if you take a trip to any museum, each little exhibit, each picture, each whatever has a little plaque next to it that has some words on it. So I think, and those experiences are very enriching for children. And so I think that, that's one of the things that I think, we try and encourage with barbershop books, is just, helping children and parents understand that reading doesn't have to be just something you do for school or something you do for homework.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
what do you have a particular age range that you target for the books that you have at the
Yeah,
barbershop?
our programming targets ages 8 and below. So boys start going to the barbershop around age 2, and
Mhm.
then they go, until their hair falls out. But our program, kind of, I mean, we some of our titles kind of go a little bit beyond, that age range, but for the most part, that is our target of like, 8 and below.
Yeah, because if they pick it up, habit of reading at a young age, it's likely to continue.
Right.
And if they're not reading after age 8, if they're really not reading, then they're going to have challenges going forward.
Yeah,
So,
that's really, once you get to, I mean, I guess, fourth grade, that's 9, 10. Once you get around that age, that is when that transition from learning to read to reading to learn happens. And for children who haven't, really developed a love of reading, or, that kind of curiosity, it can really cause many children to disengage from school. So yeah, it's really important to develop those habits and those kind of elements of their identity early, and the routines. I think, I taught kindergarten and first grade, and one of the things that I learned from my years in the classroom about children is that at the end of the day, a lot of kids just want to be grown, right? Whatever they see the adults in their lives and their families and their communities doing, that's what they conclude it means to be a part of their family. And so if they don't see reading, they don't see the parents reading, the people who love and feed them reading, right? If they don't see their friends reading, they don't see people in the community reading, then a lot of kids, rightly, I mean, why would they be wrong to conclude that that's even something they should do? Just
Right.
because their
right.
teacher or someone tells them. So I think that, whenever I have an opportunity to talk to parents and they're like, oh, what can I do to get my son or my daughter reading? And I just ask them a simple question. How often do they see you reading? Not how often do you read to them? How often do they see you reading, and not reading on your phone? Because kids generally will assume that you're doing on your phone whatever they would want to do on your phone, which for a lot of kids is play video games. So even if you're reading on your phone, kids aren't assuming that's what you're doing. So, I think that there's definitely a value to kids seeing adults crack open a book or read a recipe or read some sheet music or read something,
Now we have a couple of questions. We have one comment. Janice Kearney, she's one of our regular viewers. She said, your students are really lucky to have you as a teacher.
I am not in the classroom no more, but I can tell you that, I'm not going to say I have ADD, right? We learned a lot. It wasn't always what was on the lesson plan, but we definitely had fun. That is absolutely true. And I was lucky to have them. I really was. I learned so much during my time in the classroom.
Now, we have a question. Yeah. What is the process of getting books added to the barbershop books program?
So for us, we take our cues from the Black boys. It's not, for us, it's not some fancy calculation or analysis. We ask little Black boys what they like to read, and then we buy the books that the little Black boys tell us they like to read. And the reality is that there is a bit of a disconnect between what adults want for little Black boys to read and what little Black boys tell us that they want to read. And, I look forward to the day when we, are able to, get more and more different types of books from lots and lots of different places. But we do have an e-library that we started during the pandemic, where we exclusively feature, Black and brown authors, children's books authors, and we license books from them. And we've had PBS stations reach out to us about featuring some of the independent authors in our e-library. We've had, some of our supporters say, I've bought many of the titles in your e-library for my child. So, for us, even though, we're not exactly a kind of author-centric organization, we certainly believe that it's critically important to celebrate and amplify the voices of independent Black authors who are, telling stories that need to be told. Absolutely. I mean, I'm an independent author myself. I, published a children's book. And so, I certainly understand, how challenging it can be as an independent author to kind of, get your story out to the, the people that you wrote it for.
Right. Now, I heard you mention that you find out what the young boys want to read, and then you purchase the books. So does that mean you don't take donations, or do you only want brand new books?
Yeah, we only use, for our programs, brand new books, and, people do, I mean, occasionally, we'll collaborate to distribute new books that have been donated to us. But, unfortunately, we certainly don't have the time or the capacity or the resources to be able to kind of sort through large quantities of, kind of donated books. And we also, have very explicit conversations with our barbers about some of the dangers of soliciting donations, because we would never want a barbershop owner's place of business to become a dumping ground for people's random whack books. And that happens to us, where people hear, oh, you're helping books. you're helping Black boys read, you're helping, low-income communities get books, and then all of a sudden people start rummaging through their attic and their basement trying to bring some moldy books. And I'm like, no, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh, goodness.
Like, just because
so they're trying to give you books that they don't even want themselves.
Right.
No.
They
Like
trying to get
my
rid of.
son, he loves his book. I'm like, how old is your son? Well, he 42. No, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. No, thank you, ma'am. No, thank you. This is what your son was reading when he was a baby. No, thank you. No, thank you. Our little black boys deserve the best. They deserve the best.
I'm so glad I asked that question.
So
I made my night.
how many? I have two questions. For how many barbershops are in your program?
Right now, we're around 240 barbershops across about 50 cities, a little over 50 cities in 20 states.
That's
great.
wonderful.
Great.
The word is getting out.
Mhm.
You know, I am very fortunate, and Barbershop Books is extremely fortunate to have, so many opportunities, to get, media opportunities to talk about our work. And then just to have, such amazing partners in cities around the country. I mean, it's, it wouldn't be possible without the school districts, library systems, city governments, local organizations who sponsor their local barbershops. They, reach out to us and tell us, what, we want to bring this to our community. We want to make this happen. And so, we really work with those local partners to support them in expanding reading opportunities for Black boys in their communities.
So when a barbershop signs
program.
up, it is. When a barbershop signs up, what do they receive? Like
they receive a colorful kid-sized bookshelf that's branded with Barbershop Books on it.
Nice.
They receive a year's supply of books, a curated, set of books, and then replacement books, because, we know that, some of the books are going to be, damaged or permanently borrowed. So we anticipate that and make sure that, they have some extra titles so that, they can replace those books if they get damaged. And we know if the kids are reading a book, it might get ripped, it might get crumbled up a little bit.
yes.
And so
Some adults rip books.
Right.
So,
I don't like to get some adults my books.
That's
So
why I don't let my books, because I like my books to be pristine, and some people don't care. And it only takes once for me to get a book back with some chicken grease on it. And I'm
That's the
just like,
chicken
"Oh,
grease."
God."
We also have we provide a window decal, that the barber shops can put in their window or on their
that's
door.
great.
Okay.
Let the community know that we help the babies read in our barbershop. So that's something that we provide. We also have some other kind of marketing material and things that we provide to to the shops.
Yeah, so this is great business for the barbershop as well.
Yeah,
Parents are seeing that, hey, these barbers have books for the kids for my son, so they'll actually sit still while they're getting their haircut.
Or while
And
they're
they're
waiting
reading
in
a
the
book.
shop instead of ripping and running. Like they ain't
Right.
got no home training, or run, like they lost their mind in the shop. Yes, it helps. It helps with the climate, of the shop for sure.
Okay. And I got one more question. Then we need to let people know how.
Oh, shoot, it's almost 9:30. Okay.
I know. You said that boys tell you what kinds of books they want to read.
Yeah.
So give us an example of some of the topics that they ask about.
Well, they all about that Diary of a Wimpy Kid, that Captain Underpants.
Yeah.
Those types of books, and we listen to them. I mean, they may not always be on the book list that are traditionally curated for Black boys, but it's important to me that when a Black mother or Black father, it's like, what, I want to do better. I want to start buying some books for my kid, that they're finding books that aren't just the books that adults want to read to a kid, but they're the kind of books that if you leave them behind,
Yes.
the kid will actually want to pick them up and read them on their own. And I just want to applaud all of the Black authors, who are out here, who are really creating the new wave of these, really highly kind of engaging, books, the Kwame's of the world, the new kid, book, there's a whole, group wave of, authors who are really creating some books that are really becoming really popular, that a lot of kids, and we're hearing that, but we have books like Crown, right, that talks about, what getting a fresh haircut makes a Black boy feel like, and other, titles that are popular.
Well,
Okay.
unfortunately, it's 9:30, but I did want to see let you know that Delight said that she saw you on a Doritos commercial.
That is true.
Oh,
That
there it
is true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Featuring Black change makers. So congratulations on that.
Oh,
Here's
did you
my
do that,
children's
Rhonda?
book. This is my children's book, Gross Greg. It is in the
okay.
Barbershop Books e-library. So if people want to read a little book about a little Black boy who loves to eat his boogers, you call them boogers. Greg calls them delicious little sugars. So this is my personal contribution to children's literature. And I have a new children's book going to be coming out later this year called The Gingerbread Man on My Block, which is a modern urban retelling of The Gingerbread Man. So I'm super excited about that, but just wanted to share and let people know that if they wanted to, visit the Barbershop Books e-library, they could go there and find, lots of really great titles by independent Black authors. And some of them are even published by young people. Teenagers, so I'm just, thank you all so much for, having me on and giving me an opportunity to talk about Barbershop.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you're doing for our young folks, because this is how you encourage reading.
Yes, and thank you for taking your time from your evening to talk to the audience, and hopefully we will get people. You all do, you're a nonprofit, correct? So you all do accept donations.
We will take those donations.
Okay.
Barbershopbooks.org, barbershopbooks.org. You can connect with us on social media at Barbershop Books on all of the platforms.
Okay, and the website is in the chat, so hopefully everybody will go to the website and click on it and make a donation.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Alvin, for being on the show, and continued success with Barbershop Books.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You all as well.
Thank you.
All right. When he showed the screen, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't
either. I was like, what happened? Did he disappear?
But it's on screen share, so and that was good that he even thought about doing that, because I thought you were doing it, and then I thought, well, maybe I touched something on my laptop by mistake. I didn't know.
I was like, well, why didn't Gwen say something?
Yeah, because you know me. So anyway, we have our final guest tonight, and she's been on the show before, but it's been a while. And when she was on the show previously, Mary Taris, she was on as a publisher. And now, not only is she a publisher, but she recently opened a bookstore as well in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Wonderful.
So we want to know about the new bookstore and tell people to go patronize, not support, because Devin said support is.
He said we don't support because we're treating our Black businesses like they're charities. So we're not supporting
we want to
anymore.
patronize and spend money with our bookstores. So Mary, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about what made you transition to expansion to have a bookstore. Was it a natural transition
Mm.
from a way to feature your authors and their books? Just tell us how that came about.
Well, it was kind of by chance or coincidence that I ended up with a bookstore because Strive Publishing has become known in the Twin Cities as kind of like your local Black publisher, right?
Okay.
And after the pandemic, there were a lot of shops in our downtown area that were vacated by different retailers, and there is an opportunity for me to join the sister co-op, which was a retail space in downtown Minneapolis that is a cooperative of Black women-owned businesses. So they had
Nice.
3 Black women-owned businesses in the space. It's a huge, beautiful space, by the way. And they thought that books would kind of round it out because they had clothing and purses and things that are handmade in Nigeria. They had handmade candles, and they had body love products like, lotions and things like that.
Mhm.
And then they thought, well, what else would Black folks want, I guess? So they invited me to join the sister co-op. So I have since 2021, I've had like this little mini bookshop within the sister co-op. So after being there for a couple of years, there's this beautiful historic building in downtown Minneapolis where the owner was like, he really wanted to have a bookstore in there. And because I've been a part of the sister co-op, the folks that knew him and knew me were like, well, they suggested Strive to open a bookstore in that space. So now we have a full-blown independent bookstore in downtown Minneapolis, and it's amazing.
That's great.
Well, first of all, that says a lot about you, that when they said that maybe we should add books to this co-op, and the first people they thought of was you. So that shows that, you've been getting yourself out there and that you're moving in excellence because people are associating you with somebody that they want to be associated with.
Yes. It's been an honor to be a part of the sister co-op, and now it's such an honor to just have our own independent bookstore. And we're not leaving the sister co-op, we're still there. We still want to, provide the books that could go along with, somebody's shopping experience, because it's really cool when you go in the sister co-op. It's a different shopping experience because you can find all these different things within the co-op, and they're all Black women-owned businesses. So yeah, it's great to be a part of that still.
So are there any other Black-owned bookstores in Minneapolis?
There have been over the years. To my knowledge right now, there are a couple in St. Paul, but which is just, over the bridge. We're the Twin Cities, so.
Right, Minneapolis, St.
Right.
Paul. It's one of those
Mhm.
areas where it's like a dual thing.
Right.
And people say like Dallas Fort Worth is in Texas.
So like
But
we are more collaborative than we are competitive. We're
and that's a great thing.
Yeah, we're trying to bring the people together through the joy of books, and it's all for the good.
Right.
Well, knowing
people,
that,
go ahead.
no, you go ahead first.
Well,
Yeah.
in retail, people tend to stay within a 5-mile radius. That's just factual from long years of retail research. Not that people won't go further, but where they frequent is going to be 5 miles, pretty much a 5-mile radius. So just because you're in the same Twin Cities doesn't mean you will have the same clientele or the same client.
And they might not want to drive over to St. Paul. They might just want to stay in Minneapolis,
right?
Or vice versa.
Right.
So I mean, there's nothing wrong with cooperating.
Right.
I'm thinking we had a bookstore in Minnesota on the show, but I can't call it right now. I can't recall who it was.
I was going to actually ask, and I feel like I know the answer to this question, but do you sell a certain type of book or do you have a variety of books?
That's
Or
a
do
good
you only
question.
sell the Strive books?
Well, we don't have enough books to
Okay.
to like warrant a whole bookstore. So over the past 5 years, we've published about 10 titles, and we do have those in both our bookstores.
Okay.
So in the mini bookstore and the sister co-op, we focus exclusively on Black titles and Black authors. In the full independent bookstore, part of our mission is to bring to connect across cultures through the joy of books and literary events. So we're expanding more into not necessarily those commercial titles that you see on the bestsellers list, or even all the books that you see in any other independent bookstore, because we really focus on elevating underrepresented voices. And when we do that knowing that, coming from a background of experiencing how hard it is as an independent publisher to get your books into the bookstores.
Right.
So we have a program where we have dedicated space for independent publishers who have trouble getting their books into regular bookstores. So we have 4 independent publishers within our bookstore right now where they have dedicated space. They can have their signage and their books, the books that they feel our community would appreciate, set up in our bookstore. So that has been a win-win situation because we have 4,000 square feet of space.
That's a
And
lot.
there's no way.
That's a huge bookstore.
I know.
Big bookstore.
So half of it right now is like, half of it is the bookstore and the other half is being dedicated for event space and co-working. And we still don't have enough books. So it helps to have other publishers bring in their books on a vendor consignment type basis. And then we have like a variety for people to choose from. It's a different kind of experience when you come into our bookstore, because you'll find like we have the Dr. Artika Tyner collection. Are you familiar with Dr. Artika Tyner? She's with Planting People, Growing Justice. Well, we have her collection in the store. We have a woman-owned publishing company called The Collective, I think. Well, she's based in California, but she's originally from Minneapolis. And then we have Alvarisa Publishing, which focuses on military families. And we have Green Card Voices, which is another Minneapolis-based publisher that focuses on immigrant stories. So it's really an experience when you come into the bookstore to be able to see those different selections within the bookstore.
Okay.
So let's say that, we have authors who watch the show, but let's say they want to get their books into the bookstore. Is there a process? Why are you smiling, Gwen?
Because you always take the words out of my mouth. You've done that 3 times already tonight. Anyway.
Yes. Well, we're working on that process. So info@strivepublishing.com is where I've been receiving requests. info@strivepublishing.com. And then also, well, there's a whole process if you want to have like a dedicated space. So just writers would have to let me know, or authors would have to let me know, because I know there are some authors like Dr. Artika Tyner who have a whole collection of books and may want to, have a branded dedicated space, and that's fine. But it comes with a contract. So we have to get a certain percentage to make it worthwhile for us.
Of course. I mean, and that's with any bookstore. So if there's an author who complains about that, just run.
Yeah, I had a bookstore for 10 years, and what I and still can explain to authors sometimes who don't understand it. A bookstore doesn't make any money unless a book is sold.
Right.
They don't make money for it to be sitting there on the shelf gathering dust.
Right.
If people don't know, if there's no marketing where people are made aware of the book. So,
Right.
so just them having your book is really costing the bookstore because they have to, somebody has to be paid to handle it, to deal with it. And if
Right.
it doesn't sell, it's just money on the shelf that's not realized. So
Right. Right. So the
that's
books that we have from these independent publishers, they get paid when we get paid, you know,
mhm,
when the books sell. So I'm
right.
not, so part of a big chunk of my inventory is set up that way. So it's not as expensive to get started on building the inventory for the bookstore. But it's been a lot of fun to order titles and have to order books almost every day.
That's a great
Well,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if they're moving, that means books are moving. So
Hmm.
they're being
I'm
sold.
really, yes, and I'm excited. I was listening to the authors in the segments before me, and I put in an order for their books.
Oh,
I keep
that-
telling people they have to come on
Yeah.
the show. Great
Yeah.
things happen to
Yeah.
people on the show.
yeah, yes, things do, and that's one thing that has led to the longevity of the show, that is relevant and it actually helps people sell books,
Exactly.
because without that, it's really, nothing happens unless a sale is made. And that's everything. That's everything you do.
Right.
You have to sell something to make something happen, to pay your people, pay your overhead, pay yourself, all of
Yep.
that.
Right. Right. But it's great. You know, I feel being a publisher is so hard, as you all know, right? I'm handing that over to my oldest daughter, by the way. Her name is Latoya Taris James. She'll be your publisher in the future. Right now, we have publishing kind of on a hold until we make that transition. But I never knew that I would, but I really love owning a bookstore. It's just wonderful. I
Well,
never
you
thought
get
I
to meet
would.
the public more, because like I said, we had one for 10 years. You get to
Mhm.
meet people in person, the readers,
Hmm.
the authors, and then you get to develop some cultural activities in your community that
Right.
around your store, which is
Right.
it's a great thing to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and we've had, almost every day people come in, especially people who live downtown or people who are visiting. They're like, "Oh, it's so beautiful, and we're so happy you're here." And I'm like, "We're happy we're here too."
Right now, when did the bookstore open?
June 2nd.
Okay, so not even 2 months ago.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think I saw when it opened, there was something on my news feed on Facebook. That's how I became aware that you had opened the bookstore. I knew about the publishing,
Oh,
but if
okay.
something came across my news feed on Facebook about the store being open, I was like, oh, we know them. Need to get her back on the show. Tell us about the bookstore. So
Yeah,
I think I must have seen that right when it opened, because we didn't have any slots available for like 4 weeks when I
Oh.
contacted you.
Well,
So
I tell you, I'm going to have to start watching more regularly because I was so excited to learn about these authors that I hadn't heard about before and to order their books. So I need to watch more often.
well, you can always go back, and all of our shows are archived on our Facebook.
That's right. Yes,
Every
I'm going
show
to
we've
do
ever
that.
done is
Yes.
archived on our Facebook. So you can go back and look at any show. And normally in the description, it'll say who was on that night. It'll have the lineup for that night. So
Okay.
you can go back and look. But there's lots coming out in the future. So the two that were on today, their books just came out. So
Mhm. And that's what I love to see, the new
Yeah,
releases.
their books
Right.
came out like not even 2 weeks ago.
right.
Okay.
Well, the Duchess Effect came out last Tuesday.
Right.
Wow.
And the Queen of Exiles, I'm not exactly sure, but I know it was recent. I know
It was
this
recent. I think it was around June or July 11th as well.
Okay, yeah, I know it was very recent. Because we do try to get the authors on, like when they have a new release.
Yep,
We
it
try
was
to get,
July 11th. Vanessa's
So the
book came
same-
out July 11th.
okay, so they both
Okay.
came out last Tuesday. We try to have them on either on the release date, if we can get them on, or close to it. So to help their momentum when the book first comes out.
Well, you know what I'm noticing is that those books, they're new releases, but they're not in the new release catalogs that we get from the indie, what is it called? Well, for the indie pamphlets that they send to independent bookstores.
Well, they're published by the big publishing houses. Both of them are with, I think, the larger publishing houses.
Yeah, that's why I was able to order them from Ingram.
From Ingram. Mhm.
But a lot of self-published authors, it's just really hard to locate their books.
It is, unless, now, if they go through Amazon KDP to do their publishing, it will be on Ingram. There might be like a slight delay on, it might be 2 weeks after the book actually is on Amazon. But if they go through Amazon KDP to publish their books, they will be on Ingram.
Oh, that's good. That's
Mhm.
good to know.
Because the reason I know that is because I go through KDP and I also have an Ingram account because we have the bookstore and we still order books for clients and different things. And all of my books are on Ingram. So they're not returnable though. So that's the key, that's the caveat.
Right.
So they're not returnable by the bookstore. So that means the quantity should be small,
Right.
and then see if they turn or not.
Well, thanks for that tip.
Yeah.
You know, I should have called you a long time ago.
Yeah, well, you live and learn, and that's what we're here for, to share. Because
Appreciate it.
why people shouldn't have to. Everything doesn't have to be a new experience. We need to help each other succeed, and that's through information that people
Right.
need to know. So I'm just so happy that you are expanding your horizons.
Yeah,
And
me too.
when I saw that, I said, wow, look at Mary go. She's just not sitting on her laurels.
Right. Well, I mean, it's almost like opportunities get thrown in my lap. So how can I just not do it, Speaking of opportunities, I wanted to share this evening that we're in the final week of our writing contest. We have an annual Black Voices in Children's Literature writing contest that started out just in Minnesota. It went regional a couple years ago, and for the past 2 years, it's been national. So I wanted to share with you all that the contest ends on July 24th. So I know there are writers out there who have manuscripts that maybe they've been sending them out, children's book manuscripts. I mean, if you got something ready, submit to this writing contest.
It's called
Okay,
Free
so
Spirit.
it's for unpublished books.
Right, unpublished.
Manuscript.
Your manuscript. You don't have to worry about the illustrator and all that at this point. Just, send in your
Just the
story.
Well, I
but
just
there-
put the website in the chat. It's freespirit.com/contest.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and they need to scroll all the way down to find the submission button, but there's, all the information is on that website with the guidelines. We do this in partnership with Free Spirit Publishing. This is our 5th year. And we're really excited about our first year's winner. She wrote a children's picture book. Her name is Maylena Mungo. She wrote a children's picture book entitled Jaden's Impossible Garden. And it's won awards and recognitions. And then she's coming out with her second book, is turning into a series. It's called Jaden's Secret Ingredient. And we're going to have her do the book launch at the bookstore on August 6th.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Hey, so do you all just give one prize?
One prize.
For the children's award?
No, it's first, second, and third prize. First prize gets
Okay.
$1,000 and the possibility
Oh.
of being published. Second prize gets $500. Third gets $250 and some
Okay.
other cute stuff.
Okay, so if you have a children's book written, or if you can write one before, what's the deadline?
July
July
24th.
24th.
Okay, and it can be submitted electronically since a book is not published yet. So
Right.
it can be submitted by either an email or a submission process on some kind of online form.
Or it has to be through that online portal that's on
Okay.
the Free Spirit webpage.
Okay, all right. So anybody listening out there, if you have a children's book that you've said, I really need to get it published and I'm just procrastinating or just don't know where to start, this is a possibility, and there's cash involved. So that's
Right.
Hey, cash is always a great thing. It's a great motivator.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so for 5 years, people, there's somebody who gets that $1,000 each year. Somebody gets 500 each year. Somebody gets 250.
Right.
Love it, love it,
And
love
the
it.
recognition
Right.
and the possibility of being published.
That's right.
Because
And okay, now I think you said this, but do these have to be brand new authors or just original stories? So can somebody who's been published before enter this
Mhm.
contest?
Yes, you can enter if you have been published before,
Wonderful.
but it does need to be an original story, not something that was published before.
Okay.
okay,
All right, you heard that, y'all. Go ahead and enter the contest. You have, what's today's the 17th?
The
The
18th.
18th.
Today's the 18th.
Today's the 18th? Okay, yeah, you're right. It's the
Days.
18th. So you have what? A few days, just what, 5-6 days to write your story. You can get it done.
But I bet you there's someone out there who already has written a story
Yes.
and hasn't, just, sent it off somewhere. So here's a good place to send it.
That's true.
There
I
you
have
go.
3 or 4 stories, but they're still in my head, so that won't
Oh,
count.
write it down real quick, Gwen.
For children's stories. It requires more research. And I'm finishing my sequel. It's almost done, Rhonda.
Oh, wow.
So I'm finishing my mystery, and so I'm at 52,000 words. I need about 7,000 more words to finish the story, more or
Well, you're
less.
doing well.
So yeah, I'm keeping it moving. So I'm excited about it. And so tell us a little bit about, we only have about 3 minutes left, but how has the transition from publishing to bookstore, how has that challenged you in terms of your skill set or your personality?
Oh, it has really challenged me in terms of my personality because, I've had to do a lot of media coverage and I'm shy, I've been on TV and the papers and all that. And
That's
not that I'm
great.
bragging,
That's
I'm just
great
saying
publicity.
it's like it stresses me out though, because it takes a lot out of me to be all extra for the camera,
Say extra. You don't have to be extra, just be you. And you're doing great. I mean, yeah, you're not as extra as some people we have on the show, but we're not having to pull information out of you. We've had some guests where we've just had to kind of pull the information out.
Oh, yeah.
Be like, please just talk to us.
Mhm.
We're here for you. We love you. But
Yeah.
we don't do that with you. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's when it's a labor, and it's a new project. Sometimes when you embark on something new that really gives you some energy,
Mhm.
and you get to execute some fresh ideas that maybe you hadn't done before.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
you always meet new people when you do a new venture.
This is
You
true.
meet some new people.
Absolutely. I've had authors walk in off the street. There's a young lady poet who lives downtown and she wants to do spoken word with us. I'm like, yes, bring it.
All right.
That's great.
know?
Yeah, so you can have events at your location. And so tell people where the Strive Bookstore is in Minneapolis. So I know the website is on there, but just
Mhm.
tell them generally where it is so they can
Okay,
stop by
so
once they live in the
yeah,
area.
our new bookstore is located at 901 Nicollet Avenue. It's in downtown Minneapolis. So it's 901 Nicollet Avenue. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55402.
Okay,
And
and
we
we did
have
put
a
the
new,
website in the chat.
Oh, and we have a new Instagram. If you could follow us on Instagram for Strive Bookstore. We already were on as Strive Publishing, but Strive, I think it's _bookstore or Strive-bookstore. Is that new on?
Strive_bookstore. I'm putting it in the
Mhm.
chat right now.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Well, we're at the end of our time, but we really appreciate your being on, and congratulations on the bookstore being
Thank
open.
you.
New
And
venture.
it's so good to see you both again.
It was great seeing you as
Same
well. Thank
here.
you so much.
Yes, and thanks for having me. Take care.
Okay.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's show. Guess what? Next week's show will be our 3rd anniversary. That's
Wow.
right. This show has been live streamed for 3 whole years. And we are very excited and we're proud of ourselves for continuing. We were talking when we were DMing and just saying that the reason why this show works is because both of us are committed and each of us can do the show individually if it's needed. And that really makes it work and has really contributed to our longevity. Well, we're out of here for tonight. We will see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.